A man walks into a supermarket on an ordinary afternoon. He grabs a basket, walks down the aisle, and chooses a box of cereal. He does not hesitate. He simply reaches forward and takes the one that feels right. To him, the decision feels natural. But this choice may have been decided long before he stepped into the store. Because the moment he walked through the doors, he entered an environment carefully designed to guide his behavior. Every shelf, every product placement, every color. None of it is random. Large companies spend millions studying how the human brain makes decisions. And they discovered something surprisingly simple. The human brain almost always chooses the easiest option it sees. That means the product directly in front of your eyes has a massive advantage. In supermarkets, it is called eye-level real estate. Companies pay enormous amounts just to place their product there. When your eyes scan a shelf, they naturally stop in the middle. Your brain does not analyze every option. It grabs the first acceptable choice. The man buying cereal believes he chose his favorite brand. But the truth is, it was simply the first box his brain noticed. Restaurants do the same with menus. Eyes jump to specific spots. Designers call these visual hotspots. The most profitable dishes go there. So when someone chooses a meal, believing it just sounded delicious, their attention was quietly guided. But the illusion of choice becomes even more powerful in conversations. Someone asks, "Do you want to meet on Monday or Tuesday?" Sounds normal. But something important just happened. They did not ask if you want to meet at all. That option disappeared. Your brain now compares Monday and Tuesday instead of asking whether the meeting should happen. This technique is everywhere. In business, in sales. Parents use it daily. Instead of saying, "Put on your shoes," they say, "Do you want the blue shoes or the red shoes?" The child feels independent. But the real decision was never available. The brain accepted the frame and moved forward. This works because the human brain dislikes resistance. When we feel forced, we push back. But when we feel like we are choosing freely, we cooperate, even if the choice was carefully designed. A young woman sits across from a man in a quiet cafe having what looks like a normal conversation. But something interesting is happening. The man slowly begins to nod his head while she speaks. Not dramatically, just small, almost invisible movements. Within minutes, the woman talks more confidently. She shares more details. She opens up more than planned. He did not interrupt. He did not pressure. He only used one simple signal, a subtle nod. Human communication is only partially about words. A huge portion comes from signals below conscious awareness. Tiny movements, small pauses, eye direction, tone of voice. The brain reads these instantly and adjusts behavior without asking permission. Eye contact is one of the most powerful signals humans exchange. Too little seems nervous or dishonest. Too much feels intimidating. But balanced eye contact creates trust. When someone maintains comfortable eye contact while listening, your brain receives a message. This person is paying attention. This person is safe to talk to. Once the brain senses safety, people reveal more information. Interrogators know this well. The interviewer asks a question, then remains completely silent while maintaining eye contact. Silence feels uncomfortable. The brain wants to fill the gap. So the person continues speaking. They add details. Sometimes they reveal things they did not intend to say. Another signal appears when people mirror each other. Someone leans forward. Without noticing, you lean forward too. They cross their arms. You do the same moments later. This is called mirroring. The brain tends to trust people who behave similarly to us. When someone reflects our posture, our tone, or our speaking rhythm, the brain interprets this as familiarity. Familiarity creates comfort. Comfort creates trust. Skilled negotiators use this without making it obvious. They mirror behavior slowly. If the other person relaxes, the negotiator relaxes seconds later. The two nervous systems synchronize. The conversation becomes easier and more cooperative. Micro-signals also shape attention. Someone slightly lowers their voice before saying something important. Your brain immediately becomes alert. A small change in tone signals that something meaningful is coming. Think about a presenter explaining a chart. If the presenter looks at the audience focuses on the presenter. But the moment the presenter turns their eyes toward the chart, the audience automatically looks at the chart as well. Human attention follows other people's attention. Psychologists call this joint attention. Advertisers know this well. In many advertisements, you see a person looking directly at a product. The viewer's eyes unconsciously follow the gaze. Attention moves exactly where the advertiser wants it. These signals may seem small individually. A nod, a pause, a glance, a slight change in tone. But combined, they quietly shape the direction of a conversation. They influence who speaks more, who feels confident, who changes their mind. Most people believe conversations are driven by logic and arguments. But often, the real influence happens in the quiet layer underneath the words, where the brain reads signals faster than conscious thought can react. A man in a clean polo shirt steps into an office lobby with a clipboard and a friendly smile. He does not look like a threat. He stops near the front desk. "Hi, quick favor. Can you help me for 10 seconds? Most people say yes, because 10 seconds feels like nothing. He points to a card. "I am updating a list. Can you just confirm your name?" The receptionist answers without thinking. He thanks her, then adds one more tiny request. "Great, can you also confirm the company you work for?" She answers again. Then he asks, "And the best extension to reach you?" She pauses, but still answers. 3 tiny yes responses in a row. The conversation now feels normal, cooperative, and safe. Then he smiles. "Perfect, the last thing, could you buzz me through so I can drop this off upstairs?" In many real situations, people say yes. Not because they made a careful decision, but because their brain is trying to stay consistent with the person they were 30 seconds ago. This is the effect of agreement. The psychological chain that starts with a small, harmless yes and quietly pulls you toward a bigger yes. The shocking part is, the first yes often has nothing to do with the final request. It is just a door. Once the door opens, the brain protects the story that it is a helpful, reasonable person. This mechanism is so reliable, it has been used in scams, sales, and social engineering attacks. The technique has a classic name: foot in the door. The first request is small, easy, almost silly. The second request is bigger. The third, bigger again. By the time you realize what is happening, you are already involved. Your brain does not like to feel foolish. It does not like to admit it was guided. So it rationalizes. Here is a simpler version you have probably experienced. Someone asks, "Do you have a second?" You say yes. "Can you look at this quickly?" Yes. "Can you help me with this for 5 minutes?" Yes. Then suddenly you are doing an hour of work you never planned to do. The human brain uses consistency as a shortcut for identity. Once you say yes, you start seeing yourself as the kind of person who says yes in this situation. And after that, saying no feels like breaking character. Imagine a charity fundraiser in the street. A friendly person approaches. Do you care about children in need? Almost everyone says yes. Who would say no? Then the fundraiser smiles. Amazing, could you sign this pledge to support awareness? It costs nothing, just a signature. Many people sign. Now the person has something powerful, a public commitment. Thank you, and now that you have signed, even a small donation would make a real difference. Suddenly, people feel pressure that did not exist 1 minute ago. Not pressure from the fundraiser, pressure from their own brain. Because the brain says you already agreed you care. You already signed. If you walk away now, what does that say about you? This is how agreement chains work. They turn identity into a trap. A salesperson does not start by asking you to buy. They start by asking something that makes you nod mentally. Do you want to save money? Do you want reliability? Yes, yes, yes. By the time the price appears, your brain is already leaning forward. The pattern is always the same. Start with a question that feels morally obvious. Build a chain of yes responses. Then place the real request at the end. So, how do you protect yourself? With one simple mental move. Every time you feel yourself saying yes, quickly stop and ask, if I had not already said yes to the earlier thing, would I still agree to this request right now? If the answer is no, you are not refusing the person. You are refusing the trap of consistency. Because the most dangerous agreements are not the big dramatic ones. The most dangerous agreements are the tiny ones that feel harmless. A man sits in a crowded airport waiting area scrolling through his phone. A voice announces a flight has been delayed. Immediately people look around. One person stands and walks toward the information desk. 2 more follow. Then several others stand as well. Within 30 seconds, a small line forms. But here is the interesting part. Almost nobody in that line knows if standing there will help. They are simply copying the behavior they saw first. This is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. The brain constantly asks a quiet question in uncertain situations. What are other people doing? Once the brain sees a pattern, it assumes the pattern must be correct. This mechanism is called social proof. Humans evolved in groups, and for thousands of years, copying the behavior of others was often the safest strategy. The brain still uses this ancient shortcut today, even when the logic no longer applies. Imagine walking through an unfamiliar city looking for a place to eat. You see 2 restaurants next to each other. One is almost empty. The other has a long line outside. Without reading the menus, most people assume the busy restaurant must be better. The crowd becomes the evidence. But the first people in that line may have had completely random reasons. Once a small group forms, the psychology changes. The crowd creates its own gravity. More people see the line and assume it must be the right choice. The line grows longer. The belief grows stronger. This same effect explains why online content suddenly explodes in popularity. When people see a video with millions of views, they automatically assume it must be interesting before they even press play. The view count becomes a signal. Comments become a signal. Likes become a signal. This is why early momentum is so important on social platforms. Once something appears popular, it becomes easier for it to become even more popular. But social proof does not only shape what we watch or where we eat, it also shapes what we believe. In one famous experiment, participants were shown a simple visual puzzle. They had to compare the length of lines and choose which ones matched. The correct answer was obvious, but everyone else in the room had secretly been instructed to give the wrong answer. One by one, they confidently chose the incorrect line. When it was finally the participants' turn, something surprising happened. Many people ignored their own eyes and repeated the same wrong answer as the group. The pressure of agreement made the brain doubt its own perception, because disagreeing with a group has always carried social risk. Humans fear exclusion far more than they fear being incorrect. Imagine buying a product online. Two identical items appear. One has 3 reviews. The other has 10,000 reviews with a high rating. Most people trust the one with thousands of reviews. The crowd becomes a shortcut for trust. But crowds can also be wrong. History is filled with moments where millions of people believed something that later turned out to be completely false. Trends spread. Rumors spread. Financial bubbles form. Markets rise and collapse because people follow the behavior of others instead of examining the situation independently. The brain does not like uncertainty. When information is incomplete, the brain looks for social signals to guide decisions. Who is buying? Who is agreeing? Who is moving first? The moment the brain detects a pattern, it begins copying it automatically. Sometimes all it takes is a very small group. A few people clapping can cause an entire audience to start applauding. A few early buyers can make a product appear successful. Once momentum begins, the signal becomes self-reinforcing. Each new participant strengthens the illusion that the crowd must be right. Many people inside the crowd privately doubt what is happening, but they assume everyone else must know something they do not. So they continue following along. This is why social proof can quietly shape decisions without anyone giving direct instructions. No one needs to say, "Follow the crowd." The brain does it automatically. You are sitting at home late at night, scrolling through your phone. You see an advertisement for a product you did not know you wanted 30 seconds ago. A few minutes later, you are reading reviews. A few minutes after that, you are entering your credit card details. When the order confirmation appears, you feel something surprising. Satisfaction. It feels like you made a smart decision. It feels logical. It feels like you wanted this all along. But pause for a moment and ask a simple question. When exactly did you decide to want that product? This is the final layer of psychological influence, the place where emotion quietly outruns logic. Most people believe they make decisions using rational thinking. We imagine ourselves as careful planners who compare facts, then arrive at a logical conclusion. But the human brain works in the opposite direction most of the time. First, the brain feels something. Then it builds a logical explanation to justify the feeling. Psychologists have studied this pattern for decades. In experiment after experiment, people are asked to choose between several options. After making their choice, they explain why they chose it. People give detailed explanations: quality, price, design, features. But when researchers change the options slightly without the participants noticing, something strange happens. People still confidently defend their decision even when the original reason no longer exists. The brain is not lying. It is protecting the feeling that the decision was correct. Emotion moves first. Logic follows later to defend the story. This is why two people can see the exact same information and reach completely different conclusions. One person feels excited, another feels suspicious. From those feelings, two different logical arguments grow. Marketers understand this deeply. That is why advertisements rarely begin with technical details. They begin with emotion, a feeling of comfort, a feeling of belonging, a feeling of success. Once that emotion is activated, the logical reasons appear afterward, like supporting actors in a story. This also explains why some decisions feel strangely powerful, even when the facts are unclear. Imagine standing in front of two identical doors. Behind one is a brand you recognize and trust. Behind the other is something unfamiliar. Most people instinctively choose the familiar one, not because they carefully analyze the situation, but because the brain associates familiarity with safety. The same pattern appears in politics, in social movements, in online debates. People rarely change their beliefs because of a perfectly structured argument. They change their beliefs when an emotional experience makes the old belief feel uncomfortable. Once the emotional shift happens, the brain quickly reorganizes the logic around the new position. This is not a flaw in human intelligence. It is simply how the brain evolved to process a complex world quickly. Emotions act like fast signals that help the brain move through thousands of decisions every day. But this also means influence often happens quietly in the background, through feelings of trust, through familiarity, through agreement, through social signals, through tiny moments that seem harmless at the time. When you look back at the ideas from this video, a pattern begins to appear. The illusion of choice shows how decisions can be framed before we notice them. Microsignals show how conversations can shift direction without a single strong argument. Chains of agreement show how a small yes can grow into a much bigger decision. Social proof shows how crowds can guide behavior even when nobody is certain what is happening. And emotion shows how the brain quietly decides first and explains later. None of these mechanisms are magic. They are simply parts of human psychology that operate automatically. And once you see them clearly, something interesting happens. You start noticing them everywhere, in advertisements, in conversations, in negotiations, in news headlines, in the way products are presented, in the way questions are asked. Suddenly, everyday interactions look different. And here is the most important part. Understanding these mechanisms does not make you cynical. It makes you aware. It gives you a small pause between the moment influence appears and the moment you respond. That pause is where real choice begins, because the most powerful decision you can make is the decision to notice what is happening. So, here is a question for you. Think about the last time you made a decision that felt completely natural. Buying something, agreeing to something, trusting someone. Now, ask yourself honestly, how much of that decision came from pure logic, and how much may have been shaped by the hidden forces you saw today? Write your answer in the comments, because the most interesting part of psychology is discovering how differently people experience the same situation. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden patterns that shape human behavior, subscribe to the channel, because the more you understand these invisible mechanisms, the more clearly you begin to see the world around you.